Remember those old games that you used to play as a kid? Have you ever wanted to replay them? Maybe even buy an old console you used to own, and relive those good old memories? Well, let's look them up on eBay real quick, and oh my god! As you may have noticed, video game collecting has gotten extremely expensive, with a lot of retro games in particular skyrocketing in price. Want to buy a copy of Super Smash Bros. Melee? That's gonna cost you $65. Maybe you want to buy Castlevania? That'll be $150. And Lord have mercy on you if you're a Silent Hill fan.
How did this happen?
A lot of these games used to cost a whole lot less, but thanks to the 2020 shutdown, many people suddenly got a lot of free time in their hands, and a subset of them turned to buying old video games they used to own as kids. This created a huge demand in the video game collecting market, and has seemingly made the hobby as a whole lot more expensive. As proof of how ridiculously priced the market has gotten, I bought this copy of Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness for $35 back in 2019, and now that game will cost you anywhere up towards $190. See what I mean? So I kinda just wanna rant about this for a bit because I'm really into this hobby, and I want to talk about how you too can waste money. The first thing you'll probably notice is just how expensive most of these games are, especially the older ones that cost a lot more than you would expect. Does it make sense for a game that is nearly 20 years old to cost more than a game that just released? No! Usually there's a reason for this madness. For example, GameCube is a console that has not seen a majority of its exclusives be ported over to newer consoles, or have their old games up for sale on digital storefronts, effectively making it so the only way for you to experience these games is to own the original hardware. And since the GameCube was one of Nintendo's worst performing consoles at the time, it made a lot of those games in its library be somewhat scarce, and resulted in the prices we see now. It's not uncommon for most GameCube games to cost anywhere up to 3 times its original price. So if you weren't stupid enough to trade away most of your games when you were younger, then good for you. It doesn't help that Nintendo just refuses to port these games. It doesn't mean that all the games are immediately worth something, but it does explain the price. But why doesn't the same logic apply to something like Halo? That game is considered to be one of the best of all time, and you would expect it to be one of those games that have gone up in value. Well, the main reason why Halo has only gotten cheaper over the years is because it's been ported over to newer generations, and if you want to experience Halo, you can just flat out buy it on the digital storefront, and even play it on PC, so the more accessible a game is, the more likely it is to be less valuable. There are exceptions, but these are the rules that most games follow. So when you see a game go upwards to $100, it's usually due to one of these factors. There are also games that have become more expensive after they become delisted from the digital store. With this digital age, being able to buy any game you want from the comfort of your own home has become the norm. But this has also brought about its own downsides, such as when a game becomes unavailable to purchase and have caused their physical copies to often go up in price. Godzilla PS4 is a great example of this, as that game was pulled from the PlayStation Store due to a licensing issue, and since the game had a very limited supply of physical copies, it caused it to soar in price when it was previously worth nothing. There was even the infamous PT demo that was not only delisted from the store, but could not be re-downloaded, causing the PS4s with the demo still on it to go up in price as well. Also, once Nintendo pulls the plug on the 3DS and Wii U eShops, you will also see all those games go up in price, so buy those games while you still can. There are also limited editions of games that are intentionally made with the purpose of being rare. They usually contain something as cool as a figurine, but can be as lame as extra in-game items that are completely worthless. The cooler ones in my opinion are the Steelbook versions, since they not only look nice, but they don't take up precious space. And from my experience, they don't tend to be worth much, unless it's something really special. But the more sought out versions of games are the ones that have never been opened. There's just something so alluring about it. It's like a relic of its time, especially the older the game is. If the game comes in pristine condition and they get super popular, they can often reach lucrative prices. However, there are graded versions of these games that usually reach as high as the millions, and these are complete ripoffs. There really is no reason to waste millions of dollars on these games because you can just play them on your local game shop, or buy them online for much cheaper. Plus, I'm pretty sure the whole graded things was revealed to be a scam anyways, meant to drive up interest in the market. This is all daunting, especially for people who are just getting into this hobby or for those people who just want to buy that one particular game. But lucky for you, there's this tool called the internet, and it can help you know if you're getting a good deal or not. With the way the market currently is, a lot of people will overvalue the games. But the truth of the matter is that you don't have to waste your entire life savings just to get an old game you want to buy. In fact, if you use price charting sites, it can quickly help you find the best deals possible and know whether or not you're getting ripped off or not. If you go looking around in sites like Craigslist, eBay, OfferUp, or the devil, you will soon realize that there are some bozos who will sell you a whole lot by a way cheaper margin. It isn't always guaranteed that you will get it in the desired quality, especially for sites like Craigslist, but it's a start. Local video game shops are also a great source to find a wide variety of retro games. Those stores can tend to have very generous trade-in deals, meaning you could usually score big just by trading in other games you're not as interested as much anymore, and not completely get fucked over. There are of course some stores that will still overcharge, but most game stores can be very helpful from my own experience. If you want to have a heart attack, you can try to find a bunch of other Neanderthals on eBay for a chance at winning a game, only to get outbid by 50 cents. One source that is mostly random at this point is garage sales. I have heard stories of people getting incredibly lucky and finding a holy grail, but most of the time, you just get garbage that nobody wants. And don't even think about going to a flea market, since at this point, most of those places have seemed to have gotten worse over the years. You'd be lucky to find one vendor to have one video game up for sale, but if you somehow do find a vendor, they tend to be way overpriced, even more so than usual. Sometimes they will even try to sell you a fake copy of Pokemon for a way higher price as well. Side tangent, but be careful when buying a copy of any old Pokemon games. Pokemon games, especially Gen 3 copies, have become a lot easier to make replicas of. Sometimes you will see vendors selling them all for an extremely cheap price, but it's not recommended to buy these versions, as they won't allow you to trade up to newer games, and worst of all, you can easily break them, meaning you'll lose all your progress. And if you want to determine if someone's selling a legit copy or not, there are plenty of guides online to help you spot the fake ones. Some can be very obvious, but others have gotten so good that it almost looks like the real thing. There are also fake versions of the DS games, so be wary when buying any one of those games online. Sounds reasonable so far, but sometimes you might get this funny TikTok where these guys package their video game orders. They look pretty cool. Let's just check out their website and... DK Oldies is a website that sells video games, as well as make videos where they show off obscure gaming relics. You might have seen a couple of their TikToks, but for the past couple of months, they have been trending because of how ridiculous their prices are. And honestly, you shouldn't be paying these type of prices. They can be somewhat reasonable, but for whatever reason, they decide to charge a crazy amount of money for the more popular games. I mean, just look at these damn prices. It doesn't even help that they overcharge just for the game disc. You might as well just buy a sealed copy from eBay, because then you're at least guaranteed that your game will work. From what I gathered, a lot of their orders also are allegedly in poor condition, especially for the refurbished consoles. Apparently, they do the bare minimum and don't even clean the console that well. There was this other TikTok that I saw where they talked about how they ordered from DK Oldies was in terrible condition and didn't have any of the refurbishments they have claimed to have done. And in response to this, DK Oldies, they made a video where they showed off themselves cleaning one of their consoles, which some have since pointed out that they did a very poor job on. And to add insult to injury, they also charge a hefty price for the refurbished consoles. But it's okay because I saved $55, what a steal. Probably the funniest part of all of this is their trade-in deals. DK Oldies allows you to trade in anything you want in exchange for money. However, some other videos have pointed out that they will give you a pitiful amount of money in exchange. They will then pull a GameStop and proceed to sell the game for its extreme price. Once people began to point this out, however, DK Oldies soon took away this feature from its website, and in order for you to see how much you'll be getting, you now have to email to them to see how much they're f***ing you over. Hey, Editing Geo here, and while they do still have the email service, it's no longer blocked, so you can now just look at their prices now. And from the looks of it, it looks like they seem to have updated a lot of the prices so they don't really screw you over as much. I mean, look right here, they sell it for $73. In the TikTok, it looked like they were only getting 20, so at least they're doing good there. I just want to give credit where credit is due. People have tried to defend their practices as a way to keep their business afloat, because it's a large operation. But if they're charging premium prices for their products, then at the very least it's a sell a product that works. The idea of paying nearly $200 for a used console when it's not even guaranteed to be in good condition is downright insulting, especially since it goes for way cheaper on other websites. And worst of all, they don't even send you the official controller. They just send you a cheap knockoff and call it a day. In order for you to get an actual controller, you have to make sure to click that you want an official controller. Because you know, when I want to buy a console, I want to have the fake controller on my hands. But it's okay because I got a free keychain, so it was all worth it. Again, don't harass these guys because at the end of the day, they are just trying to run a business. And even though they may seem unreasonable, it's no excuse to go out and harass them. But these guys are the stereotype of what an overpriced game store looks like, and gives the hobby as a whole the negative reputation it often has. There is another, more controversial solution to all this mess, and that is borrowing them. Many people will try to claim that playing a game this way is bad, and not the true experience of the game. However, there is a reasonable argument as to why you should take this road instead. Emulation is the process in which you're able to successfully replicate a game away from its original hardware. If you're tech savvy enough, or look up a YouTube video, you will soon be able to play any game you want on any console or PC of your choosing. It's honestly the cheapest way to go about the hobby, because not everyone has the luxury to be able to afford all this. Again, a lot of these games are years old at this point, and in some cases like Nintendo, where they make it impossible to play their older games without wasting a fortune on them, this is the easiest and cheapest solution available at the moment. Not to mention that Nintendo is soon going to close the Nintendo eShops for the 3DS and Wii U, only making the games that were once previously available a lot more harder to find, and therefore going to be way more expensive. It's not just Nintendo, as other companies have also announced that they're going to soon take down a lot of their older digital games from their marketplaces. So emulation will probably be the best solution to even experience these titles to begin with, as soon their physical copies are also going to become rare. Luckily, emulation has gotten so good too with the past decade alone, with people now being able to emulate pretty much any generation of games they want. Plus, you'll be able to experience a wide library of games that you may not have experienced otherwise. For the purposes of this video, this is all a rumor I just heard, and I will certainly never point to you in which direction to go. Hey, what's that doing here? As you can tell, that was a lot of information on how to waste money on years old games that probably most likely don't hold up. With just how high these prices have become, I won't be surprised if this entire hobby eventually burst, and maybe then we could finally buy a game for a reasonable price once more. But for the time being, this is how things will be for the foreseeable future. It isn't all doom and gloom, since emulation has gotten so good in the past few years that you could almost replace it. Unless you're a psychopath who insists on buying the original versions of the games, like me. Still, I hope this video at least helped you understand why games have become so overpriced, even if it doesn't make sense all the time. Hopefully you'll be able to snag some games on your own for a fair price, and never have to deal with the stress of being outbid by another 50 cents goddamn.
Nighty. Ah, spaghetti. Ah, ravioli. Ah, mamma mia.